So the next stage is habits, because ultimately it's the habits that allow us to then go on and achieve the goals that we set. And it's essentially they're the stepping stones towards achieving the greatness that you've set out in your exciting, scary goals. And what's interesting is that good habits kind of have so many different knock-on effects. So, for example, if you set the habit of training first thing in the morning, that can impact so many other areas of your life. Firstly, it probably means you go to bed earlier and therefore get more sleep. It probably means you don't drink as much or at all. It probably means you eat a bit healthier. It probably means you are actually more invigorated during your work day. One habit can actually have a whole load of different triggered effects. To carry on the sort of carry on the story from Shackleton. So Shackleton failed to reach the South Pole. Scott was his kind of main arch rival in trying to do this, but there was also a guy called Amundsen from the Netherlands. And after Shackleton failed, it was really Scott and Amundsen that were likely to be the first to reach the South Pole. And they decided they were both going at this at a similar time, but they had a very different approach. So Scott said to his team, right, on the good days, we go as long as we possibly can, but on the bad days, we just rest up and stay away. You know, we don't make any progress on those days. Whereas Amundsen had a completely different approach. He said, we are going to do 16.7 miles every day, whether the weather's good or the weather is bad. And because of that consistency, he not only reached the South Pole a month quicker than Scott, he got his men all back alive. And unfortunately, Scott didn't get his men back alive. They got to the South Pole, they didn't get back. So that consistency of effort day in, day out has a much, much greater impact than going like massively big effort and then falling off your perch for a few days, then massively big effort and falling off your perch for a few days. So if we go back to those 3 goals that I shared with you at the start of today, what I thought was, well, what was the key habit that allowed me to achieve each of those goals? So if we think about the Ironman, getting to the Ironman World Championships, what was the key habit that allowed me to do that? Well, without question, the keystone habit for health has been rising early and training first thing, because it made everything easy. It gave me the time to do it. It gave me the energy, that willpower concept that we talked about earlier. It's just done first thing in the day, where nothing was there to drain my willpower. Nothing was there to get in the way. It was clear focus. So that's why that habit had such a huge impact, and actually I'm not saying it made getting to the World Championships easy, because it certainly didn't, but it made doing an Ironman easy, and then ultimately doing more Ironmans was what gave me the understanding of how I needed to get to the World Championships. And then I think back to, well, what was the habit that allowed me to write the Dream Retirement? Well, without doubt, so what was happening, I spent a year faffing and not doing anything. I was about to get a flight. I was like, right, I've got to start this book. By that point, I knew the title and the subject. Started the book, and then it kind of drifted. And I realized that I wasn't going to hit my goal. So then what I did was I created the habit of every London day became focused writing day. So basically, I'd go into London for client meetings. But other than those client meetings, on the train and in between those meetings, the only thing I did was write the book. So I just created that habit of, at that point, I was going into London once a week. So one day a week, I did no emails, nothing other than see clients and write the book. And that is what allowed me to succeed at that. And ultimately, if we go back to this principle of, it just gave me the time to focus, and that delivered the success. And I thought, well, what was it that allowed me to achieve that goal to sell efficient portfolio? What habit was it? And this one took a bit more thought. And what I realized was, it's actually one of the concepts I've shared with you earlier on today. It's this achiever ascension. It's like literally as a minimum, 1 day a quarter is working on the business, not in it, coming up with a constant stream of new ideas to constantly improve what we're doing at EP, and actually revisit all of these things. And that is actually the most important thing, because we're not, like, you can read a book and get ideas from a book, but it's not the ideas that are the most important piece. It's the opportunity to start to implement the ideas and take action. Because we can all read a book and go, that was great, I've read this great book, there's loads of ideas in there. But if you do nothing with it, then you don't achieve anything. And actually having that day, whether it's every 2 months, whether it's every 3 months, but as a minimum, a one day every 3 months was the greatest habit that allowed me to get the business continuing me to improve every quarter, and got it to the point of being able to sell it. So when we're thinking about habits, we want to think about, well, okay, what are the 3 stages of creating a habit? It takes 66 days to create a habit. The first 22 days are unbelievably difficult. The second 22 days are pretty messy, and the third 22 days are beautiful. That's where it really starts to kick in. And after 66 days, you've locked in that habit. Albert Einstein said that compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it, which is probably the best advice you'll ever get with regards to your money. But it also applies brilliantly to your habits, because what you realize is, if we think back to gratitude, if you do a gratitude meditation or a journal on 1 day, how much impact does it really have? A little bit of impact. If you do it every day for a year, how much impact does it have? Actually, it has a huge impact. And the reason that it does have a huge impact, in the same way as if you did a run 1 day and then didn't do it for the rest of the year, how fit would you be? Versus you do a run every morning for a whole year, how fit would you be? It's because it's the compound effect is the addition of all of those small activities. And when you think about it like that, you go, okay, actually, that's why it makes such a big difference, because each day you're moving slightly further up in the same way that you're benefiting from compounding.